right, so our next guest was inducted into the College Football Hall of Fame in 1999, inducted into the Browns Legends program in 2001. He ranks 5th all-time for the Browns in rushing yards with 5,496, 9th in rushing touchdowns with 25. He was a 5-time Pro Bowler and went on to win a Super Bowl with the Los Angeles Raiders after his time in Cleveland. So enough with the pleasantries. Here he is, everybody. Welcome Greg Pruitt.
Greg.
Hey, Greg, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How about yourself?
Doing good. Thanks so much for joining us. And before we get started here, before we get to the questions that we have for you, I do want to talk about something. I know you're going to be on the Browns fan cruise in March of 2024. That is confirmed. We can bank on it. You'll be there. And you're going to be there. We, in case you didn't know, are brought to you by the Cleveland Browns fan cruise. We're the podcast of the Browns fan cruise. We'll be on the Browns fan cruise and emceeing all the events on the fan cruise. And so we're really looking forward to sharing that same fan cruise with a legend such as yourself. So I guess, can you tell us a little bit about the fan cruise? Tell the fans a little bit about the fan cruise and what they can expect.
Well, it won't be cold where we're going. That's number one. And we're going to go 5 days. Nassau, stopping in Nassau, stopping in Jamaica, and spending a few days actually in the ocean. We're going to have a great time. A lot of events are planned on the ship, and I look forward to being with the Cleveland Brown fans. Go Browns.
Absolutely. And so with that, I mean, let's get into your story a little bit here.
Can I ask you a question real quick before we get started?
Yeah, let's go.
Greg, that hat, that is a unique hat there. What's going on with that hat? It's pretty cool.
A Cleveland Brown fan, lady made hats, worked at Giant Eagle, recognized who I was, introduced herself, and asked me if I would let her make a hat for me. And this is a hat she made, and it's a great idea. I like it. I wear it.
That is spectacular.
I wear it. I do the Monday morning running back show on TV8 every Monday, and you know it's me because I'll have this hat on.
One of a kind. Nobody has it but Greg Pruitt. No, so like I said, let's get into your story. If you still know her, I would like a hat kind of like that. Yeah, I mean, they could put my name on it. I don't really have a number. I'm a podcast host, but you know, we could come up with something. But yeah, let's get into your story here. Obviously, you attended college at Oklahoma from 1970 to 1972, where you were an All-American. There's actually, I don't know if many people know this, but there's a college football rule that's named after you, the Greg Pruitt rule. Made tearaway jerseys illegal. So can you tell us a little bit about that and your time at Oklahoma as well?
Yeah, well, I was born in Houston, Texas. Went to high school in Texas. I got a scholarship at the University of Oklahoma. A lot of people don't realize that I was a quarterback in high school. And my senior year, I was told by my head coach that I was going to become a wide receiver and not a quarterback anymore. The quarterback behind me, he got drafted out of high school in baseball, so he had a pretty good arm. But I didn't like the move, but I accepted it. And thank God back then, when coaches told you to do things, for example, if they said jump, the only thing you could say is high. You had nothing else you could do about it. So the reason I found later was my high school coach had a relationship with the University of Oklahoma. I had 3 upperclassmen that went to Oklahoma a year ahead, and they all got starting positions. So my coach was smart enough to work out something with Oklahoma. He said, listen, I got some great guys, but the only guy that I got that could work in your program is Greg Pruitt. But Greg is a quarterback. And so there were no black Division I quarterbacks. So he thought it would be easier for me to play the wide receiver position. So I went to Oklahoma as a wide receiver. And at my sophomore year, in fact, back it up a little bit, when I was a freshman, you could not play varsity as a freshman. You had to play a freshman schedule. Then your sophomore year, you made the varsity team and played on the varsity. So I did. I made the starting wide receiver on the freshman team. And when I came to Oklahoma my sophomore year, I think it was like maybe the third game of the season, Oklahoma decided to go from a veer offense, which basically throws the ball, to the wishbone. Mm-hmm. I was the first in that class that Oklahoma switched. In fact, we played the University of Texas, which is a big rivalry of Oklahoma. In the pregame, my number was 83, and when we came back to take the field to play, my number was 30. So I played second team. I was not very happy about that. I felt like I could start for anywhere I went, and Oklahoma was no exception. For me, I ran everything through my mom. My parents divorced when I was young, and my mom was my dad, my mom, and somebody that I knew I could trust and who loved me, and who was going to tell me the way it was, whether I liked it or not. So I called her to tell her I was quitting, that I was going to go somewhere I could play, that I can start. And my mom, usually she scream and holler at you when you say something crazy to her. So when I told her I was quitting, I put the phone away from my ear and I didn't hear anything. Then I put it back up and asked, "Did you hear what I said?" And she ignored me, and she started to give me a telephone number, area code, and a number. I knew it was a Houston number because I knew the area code. So I asked, I said, "Whose number is this?" And she said, "That's your uncle's number," which was her brother. I said, "Oh, he gonna come and get me?" She said, "I don't know. That's a conversation you and my brother have to have. But if at the end of that conversation he agree with you, then make sure that when he picks you up, he take you to his house. You can't come here because I didn't raise no quitters." So I boo-hooed and got mad, and she said, "Listen, I know you worked hard. I know you think things are not going your way, but you have to be prepared because you don't ever know when things will change." And 2 weeks later, we played Iowa State. Iowa State hadn't beat Oklahoma in 30 years, and they had us down at halftime. The guy in front of me ran a sweep, got hurt. I got in the game and scored a touchdown and an extra point because they wasn't even ranked. We were ranked so high and they were so low ranked that if we had even tied them, we would have fell out of the rankings. So we ended up barely winning that game. But that was the beginning of my career. I never looked back.
Nice. That's an amazing story, and it just kind of shows you. Yeah, and it just kind of shows you that you gotta keep plugging along and just keep at it, and good things are bound to come to those that work hard. Well, and I know you went on from there.
Well, I got drafted by Cleveland. In fact, I tell people when Cleveland drafted me, I know they came down and I ran the 40 and did some other stuff for them. But when I went to Cleveland, nobody had really seen me other than the scout for them. So when you're drafted, there's a day they bring all the rookies in, is press day and all of that. So when I came to Cleveland, the one thing I remember in Cleveland, it was a Sunday, the sun was out, and it was most snow on the ground than I ever seen in my life. And I said, I think I went to the wrong place. I'm not going to like this. So it was so bad that we had to do the little workout at the downtown at the convention center. They weighed me, so they made you strip down and get on the scale. So I had a 5-pound weight under a towel, and I got on the scale and I weighed 177 pounds. They said he was heavier than we thought. I said they just didn't know how right they were. So, my rookie year, the best thing happened to me was Leroy Kelly played for the Browns, because I learned all the little things that you need to learn as a running back. I thought I was it. I come out of college, I should have won a Heisman. I had almost 2,000 yards from the line of scrimmage and I had a 9.4. I had the record at the time for average per carry was 9.4. And when I met Leroy Kelly, Leroy is about 5'11". I'm 5'9". That's not enough. And I said, I know he's not faster than me. It's been about a month I have his job. That's what I thought. So when practice started and we started playing in games, he made it look so easy. And I struggled, and that got my attention. I said, maybe I'm not as good as I think I am. And if I want to be as good as that guy, I need to start paying attention to what he's doing. And I have a highlight film playing Kansas City Chiefs. And Leroy taught me a little trick about 22 trap. It's kind of technical. 4-3 defense. You got not Curly Cup. God, I can't say it. He's in the Hall of Fame. Willie Lanier. Willie Lanier was a middle linebacker. And Leroy got hurt and I got in the game. And I was, in my mind, I remember them saying in the meetings and watching film that you got to make sure you don't tip off what you're doing with Lanier because he'll pick up on anything. So I thought I would be smart. I thought if I leaned a little bit to my left, because they call 22 trap, which is going right, I could fool it. So when I leaned a little bit, I looked up to see if he was taking the bait, and he basically shook his head, no, you got to cover something better than that. I got tackled for a 4-yard loss on the first play. So we come out, I come out of the game, and Leroy meets me and tells me, and this is how veterans, how this game is playing 99% from the neck up. The little things you need to know that can make a huge difference. He told me, he said, Greg, was you sleeping the meetings? I said, what do you mean? He said, that's Willie Lanier as a middle linebacker. You can't fool him. He said, leaning one way is not going to get it. He said, this is what you got to do, and you got to trust me on this. 22 trap means that Lanier knows they trapping the guard. He's going to go over to help. But when he goes over to help, it's not going to be 22 trap anymore. It's going to be 21 trap. He's going to leave the back door open. I got it on highlight film. I did what he told me, and I don't know how many yards I ran, like about 80 yards for a touchdown. So I went from a 5-yard tackle in the backfield doing the wrong thing and just making an adjustment like that, and it made all the difference in the world. So, when I watch the games today, and, Chubb is a great back. There's no question about that. And Ford is going to be good, too. I told him this morning that he wears 34. And there was a couple of times out there he looked like the old 34. But it's 99% from the neck up. All these guys are skilled. All of them are fast. All of them are great athletes. But, you can't make mistakes. You can't do anything to beat yourself. The team you're playing don't need no help. But if you give it to them, you're just going to make it harder to beat them. And that was the difference for me in the game against Pittsburgh and this week. The defense played well enough to win the football game. They did not give anything to Tennessee. But the offense last week spotted Pittsburgh 17 points that they didn't earn. They got the long field goal and the 2 interceptions. And that was the difference. I think if we can stay healthy, I think that was our biggest obstacle. And there's not a whole lot of things you can do to stay healthy, but try to be in the best shape you can be in and get lucky. Some teams are lucky enough not to get any of their guys hurt. And some teams are better on paper, but they can't keep the better players on the football field. And that is the difference in this league.
Yeah, absolutely. And so you're talking about the team now and kind of how the season has gone up to this point. Do you have a prediction, or do you, as far as the rest of the season goes, on how you think they'll do? Just give us your thoughts on this year's Browns team, if you will.
How many games did the Browns win last year? Because they're much better than they were last year. Although their schedule is a little tougher, I believe they'll win double digits this year. I think they'll win at least 10 games, maybe 11 games. If you get on a streak and then you get that confidence in yourself and you don't turn the ball over, that's the biggest thing, is us making it as tough as we can make it on other teams and don't give them anything. I do get a little nervous sometimes when the analytics come in the game and they do something that I'm old school. I just don't believe that you go for a 4th and 1, and if you don't give it, you give the other team a short field. I'll never accept that.
Yeah, analytics drive us nuts on this show here. I mean, I guess it has its place just because everybody's using it in the NFL today, but it does drive us nuts at times. Kenny, did you have a question?
Greg, obviously you had a really sorry, go ahead.
No, I was listening.
Obviously you had a great college career there, and you mentioned you played high school before that, or quarterback in high school. When did you know that you were a good enough athlete that the NFL was a reality for you? I mean, it's a long, hard journey to get there, and obviously you had a ton of talent to play at the schools you did and play the positions you did, and come in right away and make an impact. But when was that moment? Was there a coach or a mentor, someone that kind of put that in your head that like, I'm absolutely good enough to play in the NFL?
Well, fortunately for me, my high school coach was a tough coach. He believed you be in the best shape that you can be in, and you don't make mistakes. It's old school football. And for me, he came to Oklahoma. They offered him a job after I came to Oklahoma. And probably the beginning of my junior year, I thought, that I could play football with anybody.
Nice.
Did you have another one?
Oh, I'm good right now.
Okay. Real quick, I do want to go back to one thing from your time at Oklahoma. I mentioned at the beginning here, there's a Greg Pruitt rule for tearaway jerseys. Why did they make that rule? Why are you not allowed to wear tearaway jerseys anymore?
I don't know. I guess they didn't have nothing else to do. But I came here and it's called a Pruitt rule in the NFL. They made it illegal, and nobody was happier to see that rule go than me. And I tell people, when it's about 20 below, zero or whatever, find a t-shirt, put it on, and go outside. You'll find out that it get awful cold. And no place in Cleveland is colder than the Cleveland Stadium downtown. So we get game plans and we sit in meetings in preparation for games. And we know that on first down we want to do this, or second down we want to do that, or third down based on what the situation is, we're going to do this or that. Well, the other teams do the same thing. They know what our tendencies are from what the film has told them. So anytime we got into a situation that they most likely knew they was going to go to me, they would walk up and tear my jersey. And it should have been an infraction to the defense, but they made me leave the field and get another jersey. So I found myself going through 5 or 6 jerseys a game, running on and off the field, and that's just too much of a distraction for me. I need that 25, 30 seconds to hear the play, to look at the defense, to see the point of attack, and figure out who's going to block who and how we going to make this play work. And when you take away 15 seconds of that, then you guessing, and usually you guess wrong.
What's the most jerseys you ever went through in a single game?
I don't know, about 5 or 6 jerseys or even more. I remember playing the Dallas Cowboys, and in the Cowboys stadium, both teams share the same hallway before they can take the field. And so I'm coming down the hallway, and I run into Bob Hayes, and Bob Hayes said, "Greg, I heard about them jerseys you got. Is that a tearaway?" And he grabbed my jersey and tore it. I hadn't even made it to the field.
Oh man! So it's just like the running joke then.
Yeah. I hated that jersey. Once people get hip to it, they would tear it just to get you off the field, but they knew it would tear, so they would start tackling you different. My style made it more of an advantage to me because I never would give people my whole body to tackle or wrap up. Most of the time, I make a move on a guy, and he might catch me with his hand or he might not. But that jersey was a distraction for me more than anything. In fact, a
so they didn't know, but they were helping you. Because once that rule went into effect, it was easier.
Yeah, well, that was another guy on the team that had a tearaway jersey. He was a starter with me. You know who he was?
Who was it?
Number 30, Cleo Miller. Cleo Miller was the fullback, and he wore a tearaway jersey just like I did. But you never seen him tear a jersey off of it because he didn't have the style to make it an advantage for him.
He didn't have the moves that Greg Pruitt had.
No, I guess, as a kid, we played football in the streets, and the streets were narrow. And you learn to make all those moves. And then when I got to high school and I saw a football field 50 yards wide and 100 yards long, and I said, man, this ain't fair.
Oh, man. No, so these are amazing stories that I would love to keep hearing story after story from you because they're fantastic. Mm-hmm. But you did have an amazing career with the Cleveland Browns. And so I guess, with all that time spent with the team and all the different things that you saw while you were in the league, do you have any advice for current Browns players, especially the younger guys that are just getting their start?
Well, pay attention to what goes on in the meetings. If you got a veteran playing your position, you can learn a whole lot from him. Don't go to sleep in the games that they show after they're played because you can learn from them. The whole purpose is to see what you've done, and if it was successful, to repeat it. But if it was not successful, to make the changes that will make it successful. And
so basically, you're saying don't be Johnny Manziel, right?
Well, if you talk the talk, you got to walk the walk.
Yeah, so no, that's good advice there. And I know spending time with the franchise, obviously, it's more than just playing football for them. You kind of become involved with your teammates, off the field, your community, those types of things. So with that in mind, is there a favorite memory that you have from your time in Cleveland off the field?
Probably, well, there's a whole bunch of them, but I would say probably one of my memorable moments was we played in Houston, and I believe we were going to get in the playoffs, but it was dependent on somebody winning or losing. And we found out that the team did win, so we missed getting in the playoffs. I think our last game was Houston, and so when we came home, it was just thousands and thousands of people at the airport, cheering us on anyway because of the season that we had, even though we came up short. It's nothing like these Cleveland Browns fans. I played with the Raiders. I went to Oklahoma and here in Cleveland, and all three spots have great fanfare, but nothing like Cleveland. I tell you a funny story. One year we lost about 4 games in a row. Now people don't realize this is embarrassing to the players as it is to the fans. I didn't even want to come out. I didn't want to even be seen in public. I get in my car and go to practice, and when I get in from practice, I get in my car and come home. So one day my doorbell rang, and I peeped out the hole, and it was a U.S. postman. And so he turned around to the door and he showed me a letter. I couldn't see what the letter was. I assumed it was a registered letter or something I had to sign for. So I opened the door to get my letter, and he said, man, when y'all gonna win a game? This is the postman that was the Browns fan.
You're like, I can't even get my mail without being harassed here.
Right. Right.
No, the Cleveland Browns fans are something else. I mean, obviously we're Cleveland Browns fans, or else we wouldn't be doing a Cleveland Browns podcast. But so we're a little biased, but I do believe that Cleveland Browns fans are something special, and it takes somebody that's kind of a true fan, somebody with a lot of grit and determination to stick with all the hard times we've had with this team. But it looks like there's a light at the end of the tunnel. At least. It looks like there could be.
Yeah. Something came to mind about one of my great moments in relationship to the fans. The first year that I rushed for 1,000 yards, I was close. I needed 200 and some yards, but I had 3 games left to get it. But I only had 1 home game left. That meant I would have to rush for over 200 yards to get it. And I wanted to get that 1,000 yards in front of the home fans because I knew I would get a standing ovation. I knew this. So I ended up, we played Kansas City Chiefs. I got 215 yards, and I got a standing ovation. And that's probably the greatest feeling you can have in front of the fans. It's for the fans. I tell the fans, we all can relate. Monday is the day everybody goes back to work. That don't mean everybody's happy to go back to work. We do it because it's our jobs. The only difference in that is, as a football player, your Monday is my Sunday. That don't mean that I feel like playing football on Sunday, even though it's my day. So you learn to prepare yourself and go out for pregame, and you do all the other stuff in preparation for the game. But when it's time to come out that tunnel prior to the game starting, the fans, they cheer so loud for you that, for me, I say to myself, if they won a contest and they were allowed to play, I don't see one person that wouldn't take that chance. But they don't get that chance. I do. And so I'm going to make the most of being able to play. And it motivates me to play well. They do make a difference. We do have a 12th man here in Cleveland.
Hell yes. It's strong words. I mean, that's real powerful. Hearing that come from somebody like you, and I'm sure all of the fans are going to appreciate hearing that. And so, before we get back into the fan cruise here a little bit, can you tell us a little bit about what you're up to today? What do you got going on every day in your life, Greg?
I had a construction business. I retired from it. My son kind of runs it a little bit, so I'm really a fetchy guy more so than anything else, and a frustrated golfer. I found out that there's a whole lot of hours in the day. It used to be when you're real busy and you work, it's not enough hours. And then when you retire, you find out it's way more hours than you thought that's in the day. So I do those kind of things and help people out. I'm a grandfather, so that keeps me busy. I got 6 grandsons. And I got one. Wow. Trey, we call him Trey, Greg Pruitt the third. And he plays high school football in Maryland, and he's a beast. He might beat Pawpaw out. He's pretty good.
So we need to start paying attention. We need to start watching for Greg Pruitt the third coming up here.
Yes, sir. It's I forget
nice.
it. My biggest thing for me is remembering things. There's something you can go online, and it'll bring up anybody in the country in high school. But if you put
Max Preps,
you bring up Greg Pruitt, huh?
Is it Max Preps?
It might.
I think it's called Max Preps. It's the high school. Yeah, it's the high school recruiting page.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll have to bring him up. Kenny might be able to throw some highlights on behind us real quick. So get him some exposure there.
See what I can find.
Are there any schools that have contacted him that are looking at him?
Oh, that's confusing. To me, the way it is now is nowhere like it was when I was coming out. The portals and it's confusing. And I'm sure it's confusing to him. I spoke to him about going to Oklahoma, But I'm not gonna press him. Because he got to make that decision. He's the one got to go there. He's the one that got to play. So if I think it's not a good choice, I'll say something. But if I don't know, I'll leave it up to him.
That's awesome. Well, no, that's great that you're spending time with your grandkids, have a big family. It sounds like everybody's doing very well. So before I get back into the fan cruise stuff, Kenny, did you have one more?
Yeah, I had one more question just before we get back into the fan cruise there. Greg, I noticed just in the back of your room there, you have the old 32 hung there against the wall.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously we lost the great Jim Brown this year. I didn't know, just as a fellow Browns alum, had you ever had, any special interactions or moments just with Jim, a favorite Jim Brown memory per se?
Well, I do have a story I'll tell you. When I was a kid, I remember watching Jim Brown play the New York Giants. And Jim Brown ran a sweep to the right. And we thought he was going to run out of bounds, but as he got to the sideline, he planted his right foot and dropped his shoulder on a would-be tackler, broke the tackle and ran for about 45 yards for a touchdown. So we as kids, when the game was over, we couldn't wait to go out and play football. But everybody wanted to be Jim Brown. So it was so we decided to pull straws to see who was going to be Jim Brown. And one of my friends named Charles Law, he won. He gets to be Jim Brown. And so we're playing football, and somewhere in the game, we're running a sweep, and it's wide open. He got a walk-in touchdown, and he runs to the right, and he slows down, and he plants his foot, and three of us hit him. We broke 2 legs and an arm. And Charles Law limps. He limps to this day. So many years later, I didn't know I would ever meet Jim Brown. So I see Jim Brown and we're playing golf. And I'm talking to him and I'm telling him, I say, how does it feel that everybody loves you? Everybody knows Jim Brown. He kind of smiled, bro. He said, yeah, well, it's still pretty good. So I said, well, I got some bad news for you. He said, what? I said, I know one guy don't like you at all. He said, well, who was that? So I told him that story, and I told him the guy's name was Charles Law. And we got to the next hole, and he looked back at me, and he said, Pruitt, that story you told me, that proves one thing. Don't you know that, right? I said, no, what does it prove? He said, everybody can't be Jim Brown.
Oh, man. No, that's a good story. That's a good story. It is funny. I know all of the alums that have had interactions with Jim love Jim Brown. Have had they have a lot of great stories about him. Common theme that we're starting to realize is that Jim Brown loved to golf.
Yeah.
Oh man, he was a great golfer too. He was nice. A good golfer. I'll tell you another short story if you got time about golf.
We got plenty of time.
Okay, so I'm playing Jim at Highland Golf Course. Now, the word is Highland was the course that, when he played for the Browns, was the course he played a lot. And it was hard to beat him at Highland. He gambled a lot at that golf course. So we're playing Highland, and I'm having a pretty good game, back and forth with him. And we get to number 18 at Highland. Jim don't know this. But now I'm saying I ain't never parred 18. It's like the number one handicap out there. But that day I hit a good drive, and my second shot, I birdied the hole. Not only it was the first time I birdied, it was the first time I ever parred the hole. But I beat him on the last hole. And so I'm kind of, shoulders are spread and all that. And shake hands with him, tell him a good game. He said, oh, no, we got to play tomorrow. I said, well, hey, that's up to you. You want this tomorrow, you just show up, you can get it. So I go home, and I played with Ben Davis, and I told me and Ben came up the next day. Now, overnight, the weather changed. The temperature went to probably about 25 degrees. And it was raining a little bit. It was more like little sprinkles of snow. And Highland had they were remodeling the golf course, and they had a temporary office there. So I pull up in the morning, and there's only one car in the parking lot. And I told Ben, I say, Ben, you don't think that's Jim Brown, do you? He said, I don't know. He rents cars when they come in. So we pull up. And so my whole thing was to make sure, hoping it wasn't him, because I didn't want to play again, especially at Highland in that kind of weather. And I run over to the car, the window comes down, and it's Jim Brown. I said, Jim, I just wanted you to know, man, I really wanted to play, but look like, man, the weather ain't going to cooperate. He said, it'll stop. I said, what? He said, yeah, give it a few minutes. It'll stop. We're going to play. So I go back over to Ben. I say, Ben, this dude wants to play. He said, what? I said, yeah, he wants to play. So it did slow down a little bit. Jim gets out. Remember, like I said, it's like about 25, 30 degrees. He got blue jeans on. He got a sweatshirt with the sleeves cut out of it and the neck cut out of it. He puts a windbreaker over that. And then he reaches down and puts his shoes on with no socks. I got Gore-Tex on and I'm freezing to death. So we go and we play. It's back and forth. I'm freezing. I mean, it's. So we played 9 holes, and you got to go back past the main spot to play the back 9. And when we did, he looked at me and he said, "I don't know about you guys, but I'm taking to the house." He didn't have to wait for an answer. But that's my Jim Brown story.
Man, those are some of the best stories we've heard on our show. I mean, that's phenomenal. But no, like I said, I would absolutely love to sit here and hear all the stories that you have to tell, Greg. But we will have a chance on the cruise actually to talk to you a little bit more and maybe do another interview.
No problem.
Absolutely. And so speaking. Oh yeah. And so speaking of the cruise, I want to bring this back to the time that we'll get to share on the open ocean in March of 2024 and a couple amazing stops along the way. So let's talk about some of the things that we have to look forward to. I know, Kenny, you mentioned that there'll be some more mingling than fans are used to. You'll be able to get up close and personal, actually have a conversation, maybe shake hands, whatever the case may be with some of these Browns players.
Listen to some of Greg's great stories.
Oh, yeah. Sit there, maybe play some card games, whatever the case may be on deck there. So it's going to be really exciting. We're going to have a lot of fun. But I do want to talk about the Browns backers competition that the Fan Cruise has going right now. In the terms of this competition, basically, here's what the winners get as far as Browns backers organizations that are booking cabins. The chapter with the most bookings will get an all-expenses paid balcony cabin for 2 on the Browns Fan Cruise. The chapter with the highest members to bookings ratio will also get an all-expenses paid ocean view cabin for 2. All members of the winning chapter will receive a specialty dining pass for 2 guests, and all members of the winning chapter will receive a Browns Fan Cruise commemorative Cleveland Browns autographed football. And so with that being said, and speaking of the Browns backers, Greg, do you have anything that you want to say to Browns backers across the nation and across the world specifically?
Go Browns. I've had some great experience with Brown backers all over the country. Them guys come up with some ideas you never heard of. I actually went to Baltimore a couple of years ago to watch the Browns play Baltimore in Cleveland. I went to Phoenix, did the same thing. I watched the Browns play Phoenix in Cleveland. And I was in Phoenix at a Brown backers party. So they're everywhere. When I got traded to the Raiders and lived in L.A., like every other car had an Ohio license plate on it. I mean, they are everywhere.
Yeah, those guys with the Browns backers, they do really, really good work. You kind of alluded to it. They do a lot of good work off the field as well. So Browns backers, get out there, get book your cabins. We want to see you guys win. We want to see you guys on the Fan Cruise and mingle a little bit with you. Kenny, before we sign off here, did you have anything else for Greg?
No, I just want to again say thank you so much for your time. I mean, these were tremendous stories. I'm so glad we had a chance to sit down with you tonight, and looking forward to catching up with you on the actual cruise so we can mingle some more and have a great time.
Same to you. Can't wait to have a good time. Go Browns.
Yep. Go Browns. Thanks for joining us, Greg. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Browns fans, celebrate your favorite team aboard Royal Caribbean's Independence of the Seas. You'll set sail March 11th through March 16th, 2024. You'll be joined by dozens of Browns alumni, chomps, and hundreds of other Browns fans as we embark on a 5-day cruise visiting both the Bahamas and Jamaica. Your all-inclusive vacation is waiting. Spots are limited, and registration is now open at brownsfancruise.com.